welcome back. My name is Beth Hiley here for BoardGameGeek in collaboration with Comic-Con at Home, and I'm joined today by Bobby West, which is one of the co-founders of Story Machine Games, and welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We're excited today because you've brought us one of 4 titles that you guys have out for Story, or out or in progress for Story Machine. Yeah, and this one is Rosetta The Lost Language, which I think people are going to find is really interesting spin on the concept of language.
Yeah, so it's a cooperative puzzle language building game in which you're working together as a group to come to a single English meaning of a lost inscription. So on the screen there, you have on your right-hand side an inscription card, and that is the lost thing that we have to figure out. On the meaning card in the center is the actual English translation of that inscription. And then the location all the way on the left is the art in which the inscription has been found. So you're using both the location and the inscription to come up with a single English word. And then the rest of the group is making guesses, and the author is translating those guesses into a language to, again, get to that single word, that meaning ultimately.
And what I liked about this setup too is it's up to the author to decide what that meaning word is.
Right.
So I like
the
that
author has maybe a little bit of a hard job because they actually have to define that word and then translate as they go. But they get both the location and the inscription to see together to then come up with that meaning. It can't be anything literally in the picture, so it couldn't be, in this case, a tree or a cabin or a spear or anything that you can see. And it should be a simple concept or simple word because, again, it's cooperative, so we're trying to work together in this to win, so maybe it shouldn't be something really complicated. Although we've seen in games of groups that have played a lot and authors that have authored a lot, very complicated words be guessed, like necromancy and prophecy. So those things, as the group and as the authors get better, those things certainly can come up.
Well, the other thing I liked that gave a lot of flexibility to this is that inscription card. You can also choose which side you want to rotate it on to give you some flexibility, that maybe it looks like a ship in this direction, but maybe it looks like a bow and arrow in this direction. And I thought that gave you a lot of versatility without needing hundreds of inscription cards.
Yeah, exactly. And every author is going to see different symbols in the cards, see different meanings in the inscriptions, especially based on the location given. So we want to give as much freedom as we can to how they want to orient the card to actually make that meaning be something that they can think of. Because ultimately, as long as the author can justify their definition, then that's all that matters in the end. As long as they can go back through the translations and be like, oh, this part meant this to me, I translated this way because I thought it would give you the most information and the most help. If they can do that, then that's good for everybody.
Well, we're going to do actually a little sample round coming up. But before we do that, I do want to make sure people understand, would you describe this as a fully cooperative game, or are the experts working against each other to kind of see who can guess that word the fastest, the author's word, which is going to be written on that meaning card in the middle?
Yeah, so it is fully cooperative. The author and the experts are all working together to get to that one word. And the experts obviously are encouraged to talk amongst themselves about ideas they have, what they possibly think the definitions or the parts that they're getting could mean. When we play normally, we would deal out the number cards to everybody. So ultimately, you get to make your own guess on your turn, based on all the information that you're given or however you feel it should be. When we play on stream, though, we usually have everything set up this way. So ultimately, if you think that the author is trying to convey one thing and you have that number 2 card for the next guess, you can freely guess what you want, but it is a fully cooperative game.
Now, and before we get into a little sample round here too, you guys also have some ability cards that might give a little bit of a boost if your experts really are not heading in the right direction.
Yeah, so there's 2 ways we give some help. So after guess 3, before guess 4, you get to use an ability. So there's up at the top by the boxes, there's 2 ability cards up, and they're double-sided. So the experts get to choose one of those 2 abilities, and then the author will execute those. Depending on what they are, they might allow the author to define more words. They might have the author point at something in the space that you're in that might give you a clue. They might mime something. So these are just ways, again, to help the experts come to that meaning. And then after guess 6, before guess 7, you get the fragment. And the fragment on the inscription card is that little circled area in the top left of the card. So it's part of the inscription. So if we haven't come to the definition of that, or we don't think we know what that is as the experts, the author will just flat out tell us that this means this in English. So we get that one-to-one translation. Again, these are ways to help us as we go through the game.
Well, let's actually try playing at least part of a 10 round. And what I would love is if Lincoln or Nikki actually would write a word on the meaning card, but write it off camera. So that Bobby and I would be playing for real, but also the chat, if you'd care to join in and try and see if you can guess what word this might actually be.
Yeah, and one of the great things
So
about this and that we've been doing is it's a great game to play on stream, because as long as one person is the author and has the cards, the stream and anybody else can just be guessing, and the author is drawing and translating on their own.
And it doesn't mean that
it's actually perfect.
And the person who owns the game doesn't necessarily have to be the author. They just kind of have one location and one inscription out, and the author could be somewhere completely on the other side of the world and writing down whatever meaning they want, and then saying, "Ha, you got it."
Yeah, as long as you can see their translations, and again, as long as they can justify those translations, then yeah, you can be wherever you want playing the game.
So we're throwing Lincoln and Nikki into the deep end, making
it's just me.
I'll go over a couple of points while they're working on it. When the author is translating, obviously they can make up new symbols, right? And that's part of it. You're trying to give them, the experts, as much information as you want. They can't use common symbols, though, so they couldn't use punctuation or numbers or arrows. Obviously, that would be maybe too much and outside of the history of the game. Besides that, they can draw whatever they want. The other thing they can do is if we guess a word, so in the example game that we have in the rule book, one of the words that's guessed is flower. The flower is so far outside the scope of what the meaning is, the author can cross off that word, signaling that translating this won't be of any help to anybody. Let's just move on to the next guess. And that actually could give you a lot of information of itself, knowing that, okay, we're way off base, let's go somewhere else.
So, Nikki, looks like maybe you have a word selected of something that maybe is related to a feeling you get from that inscription and that picture.
Yep.
So now on that
the inscription card, is that the right way? Is the inscription card oriented the way you want, just to make sure that we're seeing it correctly? Okay.
Okay. So now, Bobby, do we make a guess first? Like just kind of...
Yeah, so we can start
blue?
anywhere we want to, and obviously the chat can give some guesses as well. Even though, so a strategy I like to do, even though they can't choose something literally in the picture, oftentimes it's good to start with something that we can see, because part of the inscription is treated as pictographic, so part of the inscription could be something in the picture, right? There could be trees in the picture, there could be shelter in the picture. That might be part of the total word that they're trying to work on. So guessing something like trees or cabin or shelter or house, those could all be good first guess attempts to see if we can maybe wrangle in a few of the points that they have.
Well, I like the what is now a diamond with sort of the stalk coming out of it, the leftwardmost symbol in the inscription. Feels very tree-like to me in that orientation.
Sure. We can go with tree,
so like tree might be a nice place to begin, because then Nikki's going to draw us a symbol in response to tree, or cross it off completely if we're so completely off it's not worth doing anything about.
Correct.
So yeah, unless you have a better idea, I defer to you.
No, I think tree's great, and Nikki is encouraged to make up new symbols, right, to give us some or part of the total meaning. So even if she can't, even if tree is wrong and is not part of the picture, maybe part of tree could give us some clue into the symbols that she's using. So I like to, when I'm authoring, try to give as much information, even if the word doesn't necessarily mean one-to-one in the picture. If I can sprinkle in some of the symbols in the inscription, that's the most helpful I can be.
Well, Nikki, why don't you flip over card 1 there, write tree, just in case if anyone is joining us later that they know that tree was our guess. And then,
you can write towards the top.
Yeah, and then either draw a symbol that maybe you think would be, if you think one of the symbols from the inscription was exactly a tree, you could copy it, you could draw something new.
Whatever you think will help us.
Yeah, you are an interactive Rosetta Stone.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
If only the real thing was that responsive.
That's right.
Well, okay.
Bobby, while Nikki's drawing for us, have you been to see the Rosetta Stone? Is that something?
I have not, no. It's something I definitely want to go to now because we were doing some research about it for the game, obviously, and the designer, John Onedo, has been to see the Rosetta Stone, so that obviously heavily influenced the game. So I would love to go see it in person myself now.
All right, we're ready for your symbol there, Nikki.
There's my symbol.
Okay, it was a tree.
So we have now part of the inscription. We know that image on the left side, or the symbol on the left side, is a full tree. There's no alterations to it that we can discern, so we're just going to assume that whole thing means tree, and we'll move on our guessing from there.
Well, I was kind of pushing what I wanted for the first word there, Bobby, so I'm going to let you take lead on the second.
I'm looking in chat to see if anybody in chat has any thoughts or guesses for the next one, because we're 1 for 1, right? We've made one guess and we've nailed one symbol. So.
Bam!
Somebody said fire as a guess. Bow and arrow. So it can only be one single word. So bow and arrow can't work, but actually bow might not be a bad guess. And Beth, I think you mentioned it before. That kind of looked like a bow and arrow down at the bottom right part of the card as well. You want to go with bow? See what bow looks like?
All right, let's do bow. So same thing, Nikki, you're going to write bow on card number 2 and then either cross it off if we're completely out of our depth or draw a symbol that might represent a bow. That would give us a better understanding of your language.
And again, when we're playing not on stream, we deal out these number cards. So if the person in chat really wanted bow and you and I were thinking something else, but they had that number 2 card, they're freely allowed to guess bow. So there's not necessarily piggybacking where you're forcing somebody to guess something. They get to make that final decision ultimately.
Now, have you guys had a discussion, because I noticed in the description in your webpage for this game that you had specifically mentioned that for use in classrooms for this game. Mm-hmm. Was there a design inspiration for students?
Yeah, we've actually brought it to a couple linguist classrooms and archaeology classrooms, and the response from the academic side has been great because it actually shows how people actually do this, right? They find an inscription somewhere and then kind of work backwards from the component parts to make the whole inscription. So the academic side of it, the friends that we have as teachers or universities that we've brought it to have really enjoyed the game.
I asked because I was one of those students long ago.
Yes. Yeah, and it gets played even in high school classrooms. We have a friend of ours that's an English teacher, and they play it in their classroom just as, a way to communicate, right? It shows how you can communicate non-verbally just through pictures, so.
Yeah, well, and I think it would be, and I apologize to toss out technical terms, but go Google them if you're interested, the evolution from pictogram to ideogram to grapheme. Like, I think that would be really, I find that process fascinating. I think if you are at all interested in language, it's equally interesting to research the evolution of spoken language, but also of written language. And this would be sort of the earliest forms of written language.
And I know John, the designer of the game, would be proud to hear you say that because that's exactly what they think of when they design the game. So
always nice when your design inspiration actually pings with somebody else. Like, yeah,
exactly. Like, yes, you get it.
Someone gets it. Now, just while we're Nikki is creating something magical for us, if they don't guess it, it's always magical, Nikki. If they don't guess it after 10 attempts, then unfortunately we collectively as a group lose. And try again.
You just can play again. We often in a game night pass authorship around, right? So after Nikki would go, if we got it in 3 or didn't get it after 10, then maybe you would be the author, right? And you just go back and forth and play around because the game's pretty fast. Even if you don't get it in 10 rounds, the game doesn't take that long normally. So.
All right, Nikki is ready for our response to our second guess. Okay.
Oh,
interesting. It shares a similar shape.
Yeah. There's more of the little keys inside of it, though. So we have so this is one of the interesting parts of the game. We have part of the symbol, right? But Nikki's modified it in such a way, meaning it's not a direct one-to-one. So if we're thinking of bow and arrow or bow in the weapon sense, it might not be exactly that, but part of it is true, right? There's some bow element or some archery element perhaps to this whole
They're
thing.
related, but not exact.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the great thing about authoring is Nikki thought that she could give us some bits of information in Bo while making slightly the same symbol that's there, but then a new symbol on top of it. So I always think that's one of the best parts for both sides, to be able to give that extra information.
Well, I would love to defer to the chat for our third one here, since we really kind of went with my idea for the first one and Bobby's idea for the second one. So I'm wondering if anyone in the chat, knowing that we've purely defined the symbol for tree and we have a related symbol for bow, and you can see the full inscription and the full picture, that's our location, that's an inspiration for whatever word Nikki has chosen. Any ideas on what word you think
archer,
Nikki should respond to?
Carpenter, some lumberjack, a bunch of different axe I'm seeing. So a lot of people are suggesting weapons. Tree is a large part. Somebody said tree is a large part of the actual inscription that we have, right? It's more than half of the inscription size. So I wonder if the tree plays some bigger part in it, like axe for cutting it down, or somebody that works with trees, right? And this is a potential tool they use that's maybe not a bow and arrow, but something that you could use to do carpentry with or do woodworking with.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. Maybe
Saw.
I'm liking
Saw's a good
axe,
one.
axe or saw. Oh, saw, that would be a good
Somebody
one.
just suggested saw. Yeah. Saw's not a bad idea, because if
Let's go for
so maybe
yeah.
saw isn't actually in the inscription, but Mickey could use saw to help define us down that road if it actually is a lumberjack, a carpenter, some sort of woodworker, right? Somebody that uses wood in that sense. So saw, I think, is a good option here.
All right, it's official. Nikki, we're going with saw.
This
for
part
number 3.
here?
It just, in general, that's just, we think, we're taking a guess that your whole inscription means saw, and if it doesn't, you
Or
can write
part of
something
it,
in
yeah.
response to us that might
And then
help us in the right direction.
And after this, we get to use an ability. So if the
Right.
If the whole inscription doesn't mean saw, then we get to pick something that then Nikki can hopefully help us with, since we're
Which is,
getting
I wanted to
nearer,
play
but we're not exact.
Yeah, at least up through 3 rounds, so or 4 rounds. So yeah, we could kind of see what the effect of maybe one of those ability cards might have on our flailing of
yep.
guessing. There was, in college, I took a linguistics course where we had a native speaker of a Native American language, and it's been too long and I don't remember what language it was anymore, but each one of us had to pick some sort of thing we wanted to learn about her language. Some people picked that they wanted to learn about how certain verbs conjugate, and some people wanted to learn about how there's gender in the different languages. So this was very much a spoken form. And my group, we picked, we wanted her to tell us of a children's fairy tale or bedtime story. And then, because generally that tends to use a pretty small set of vocabulary, and then we had her translate individual pieces, and then we tried to figure out what the story was. So we basically did exactly what we're playing in this game, where I did have a live person who could respond to my questions, and I could adapt and return. I kept a meticulous notebook from that. This is my undergrad years, and I still have it because that class was so transformative to me as a professional, and later in my profession as a speech therapist. So that's I think this game is capturing that same feeling for me personally. I mean, I know that's a very specific example, but
Well, one of the interesting things with that example too is that person knew the language, right? Nikki is sort of the author, whoever it is making it up on the fly and sort of adapting it to navigate us down that path, right? So there's maybe even a little bit more pressure because Nikki might not know what we're going to ask, or how she's going to define any one symbol that we ask for. So.
All right, Nikki, give us the big reveal for our third guess, which was
not
saw.
100% sure I'm doing this correctly, but
Interesting.
This is an amazing drawing. Oh my gosh. Could you just write the word saw on that in case people are
okay.
Right?
don't. Oh gosh, yeah, we don't have any animals. Well, this is the time where we get to use an ability card, however.
That's true. Yeah, what were the two abilities we had? I didn't get a close look at them in the beginning.
Dialect was, the author says an adjective related to the meaning. And
Right.
the other one is culture. The experts may ask up to 3 yes or no questions at a time.
Ooh, culture could be good because we could ask, is it a job? Is this something that is involving animals? Because we have the what looks like a steer or bull now, so that could be a potential one to use. And with that one, we don't have to ask them all right now, so we could ask maybe one right now, get an answer, have another word translated for us, ask another one later on. So it could be a good one to have for us.
I'm voting for the adjective ability.
Okay, I'm good with that. Somebody said do dialect.
Sorry, Nikki.
Yeah, let's do dialect. The
Oh,
author says
boy.
an adjective related to the meaning.
So I have to give you an adjective.
Yep. So that's not the exact meaning, but that's something close to it, related to it. So I wonder if it has something to do with hunting then, because we have a tree that you could maybe hunt outside with, the bow that is similar to the one that we have, but maybe not exactly, and then this animal with the saw that could be the thing that you're going to get, right?
I'm kind of wondering if our circle with the slash heading into it might be more of like a plate with a knife or a fork. Originally, I was thinking maybe it was a bullseye, but now with the bow and the hint of eating, I'm wondering if maybe it's more food related.
Yeah. So, do you have any thoughts, or does the chat have anything?
Yeah,
Is he hunting?
I think, and because we're gonna make this one our last round in the interest of time. So if we don't get this,
Sure.
then Nikki can spill the beans after she draws us our final picture.
That's right.
I think I want to do like steak or.
I'm so glad my face isn't on the screen right now.
You do not have to keep your poker face up right now.
Yeah.
Or because you're such a good bull there, like hamburger or something like that. Like I want to do a food product that's made out of beef. So I'm going to go with steak.
Steak. Let's
Which
do it. Last bet.
STEAK steak, not AKE steak.
Okay.
Steak the grill item, not the pound in the ground item.
That's right.
Because I had to pick a homophone.
Yeah, those are tough for this game, right?
I know, right? It's just, Beth's merry parade of language terminology, really.
Yeah.
While Nikki's drawing that for us, a couple people in the chat were asking about the ability cards. How many different abilities are there?
5, and they're double-sided, so there's 10 total. And again, you just shuffle them up and deal them out however you want to. You get 2 a game, and then you get to pick 1 when you get to guess 4 to use. So.
Now, alternative question, because there are, the location cards are beautifully drawn. But is it possible that if you had, and again, I'm thinking something that a teacher might be interested in, could you substitute with an image that you download off the internet or that you take yourself and thus start making more combinations and, putting your own flavor on it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So Michaela Dawn did our art, and it's gorgeous. But yeah, you could use your own theme, right? If you want to pick a certain region and just have locations from there. Similarly, you could draw your own inscriptions too, if you wanted to take inspiration for how they're sort of laid out. Because we spent a good deal of time trying to make sure that there were the correct amount of familiar, but that you couldn't actually discern one-to-one things in them. So you could also make just on a sheet of paper, make your own inscriptions as well, again, based on theme or whatever you want to just endlessly continue the game.
All right, Nikki, show us number 4. So what you've drawn in response to steak is a bunny. Seriously, though, I'm really impressed with the quality of your pictograms.
Yeah,
though.
your animals are great.
All right, so in the interest of time, Nikki, you'll have to spill the beans on what your word was.
I'm going to say right now the chat got it.
Oh! Oh, it's too specific.
Yeah.
So the bow
So-
was something to do with hunting then, yeah. And it
Yeah,
would be something you
so-
do outside with the trees in the forest, yep.
Go to the forest, hunting, like a hunting party, and then that's when I started going for food.
Sure, yeah.
So, Bobby, would you say, like, had we gotten to the point of getting that fragment, she might have just told us flat out that the circle with the slash through it means hit or
Food
bullseye?
plate, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So she gets to define it, but at that point, because we kind of have most of the components, and that could have been the last thing we're missing, she can decide how she wants to define it. If it's food, 1-to-1, if it's plate, like you said, with food on it, and hopefully then that, we get to hunt from those things. Because we got 2 out
Yeah.
of 3 symbols for the most part, so.
Well,
This is
Bobby,
terrible, but could I have done this?
Sure, yeah.
funny state.
Meaning this symbol, bullseye.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
you could have absolutely done that.
All right.
Yeah, because you can put the component parts into your translation to help us, so that would have been great, yeah.
Okay.
Well, Bobby, I really appreciate you helping us to walk through a little tour of the early forms of written language. Nikki, thank you also for being our pictogram skill with a dry erase pen. I know we
No
totally
problem.
threw you in the deep end on that one. Bobby, for people who are interested in picking up this game, is it available now? And if so, where can they get it?
Yep, it is available now on our website, storymachinegames.com. And there's also 3 other games. 2 of them are on pre-order. One of them you can buy right away as well, Danger Park, Sacred Rights, and Quota, all up on our website.